Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. For those unaware, Be Cool Scooby-Doo is the 12th iteration in the classic and beloved Scooby-Doo franchise. While featuring a more modern sense of humor for a new generation, the new show doesn't deviate too far from the characters you grew up with, at least in my opinion. They've just been given a slight injection of personality. With the latest show on a sort of unfortunate hiatus here in the United States, I wanted to make a video talking about the show, but more specifically listing off 5 classic monsters from across the franchise that I'd love to see show up in the rest of Season 1 or in Season 2. The show does feature some reimaginings of previous characters, but most of them are brand new, and it's only coincidence that a few seem like they were inspired by other monsters. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump to the list. Number 5. The Burger Monster from A Pup Named Scooby-Doo.
Hey! Who swiped my bucket of cash? Rawr, I did! Rawr, I hate O'Greasy!
You're probably thinking that this is a weird pick out of all the various monsters I could have chosen from in the franchise, and you'd be right. But that's exactly why I picked him. He's from a pretty different iteration in the franchise, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which has quite a host of oddities for villains. Plus, I think it'd be incredibly ironic for a food monster to go after the gang given Shaggy and Scooby's proclivity towards food, don't you? Now, as weird as A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was, I think its monsters would fit in well with the comedy of Be Cool Scooby-Doo. Introduce the gross fast food place O'Greasy's and you've got a recipe for a fun episode. Number 4. The Gator People from Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Oh, sweetie, there's no such thing.
More commonly referred to as the creeping creatures, the Gator People were the gator disguises of Grady, Greta, and Gunther Gator in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. They dressed up as gators to prevent outsiders from finding out they were selling fake gator merchandise. As lame as that motive really is, and like Shaggy says,
like that is one ridiculous plan.
It's the creepy factor of the episode along with the Gator People themselves that gets them onto the list. While the Be Cool gang have already visited the swamps of my home state, Louisiana in the episode Saga of the Swamp Beast, and it's unlikely they'd ever go back, I would love to see them tackle the Gator People in Season 2. I'm sure there's plenty of comedic hijinks that could occur with these 3 creepy characters. Number 3. The Creeper from Scooby-Doo Where Are You?
We can dump them by that ugly scarecrow, Scoob.
Quite easily one of the most iconic of Scooby-Doo villains, first appearing in Season 2 of Scooby-Doo Where Are You, he later made appearances in Cyber Chase, Mystery Incorporated, and 2 Scooby-Doo video games. As a kid, I was pretty frightened of this particular villain because of how he walked and talked. I mean, seriously, him repeatedly saying paper and creeper in that deep, terrifying voice of his is enough to scare anyone. He's not the smartest of foes, but I still love to see him in Be Cool Scooby-Doo and see how the show's writers would use him versus his later appearances. Plus, he's just so classic, it would be a crime not to have him appear. Number 2. The Evil Mystery Incorporated from What's New Scooby-Doo.
Do you see what I see?
The gang have done a lot of good in their day, solving tons of mysteries for no other reason than a love of sleuthing. So, in a bit of genius, What's New Scooby-Doo presented us with evil doppelgangers of our favorite teen detectives in the episode A Scooby Valentine, and had them framed for a crime they didn't commit. Just the concept alone is enough to warrant a spot on this list. The idea would eventually get used again, I think, in other iterations, but I wouldn't mind if this one was revisited because of how much the new show could do with it. I'm just picturing an evil version of the Be Cool version of Daphne, and it would just be great. Interestingly enough, an upcoming episode I'm set to review is titled The People vs. Fred Jones, where Fred has been accused of being the culprit behind a mystery. So it's possible we'll get part of this concept again, but I'm still holding out hope for a legit set of evil clones of the Scooby Gang. And finally, number 1. The Fandom Virus from Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase.
Yeah, I can't. It's not responding.
When I was thinking up this list, I was torn between picking from fake monsters or real monsters, as the gang have faced a few real ones along the way. But I also knew that Be Cool Scooby-Doo, much like a majority of the franchise, wouldn't incorporate any real monsters, which is why the Fandom Virus is the perfect fit for this list in my opinion, as its nature is the best of both worlds. Created by Bill McLemore to sabotage his fellow students' project, it is both a real monster and something that I think wouldn't contradict the fake monsters of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, as it's a man-made virus. The Phantom Virus was an incredibly fun monster in the movie, causing tons of trouble for the Scooby Gang and unleashing their previous enemies upon them throughout the various levels. Not to mention, he just had a very interesting design and voice that helped sell him as an intriguing villain. Back when this was released, technology and computers weren't as advanced as they were today, which means a villain like the Phantom Virus and an episode adaptation of the film's events are even more relevant today than it was back in 2001, thanks in part to smartphones, internet culture, and VR gaming. There's almost an unlimited amount of potential for an episode featuring the Phantom Virus. Whereas the beam that could transport people into the digital world was maybe nothing more than sci-fi when this was released, these days it's not that far off. I could see the beam maybe being replaced with VR technology, although I wouldn't really mind the beam still being used. And it's a way for the gang to face past Be Cool Scooby-Doo villains, or even throw in some cameos from their heyday. Seriously, I could go on and on about this idea and why it's so perfect. Now, I understand that probably none of these are going to show up, minus maybe the Creeper, given the show won't be getting a Season 3 and Season 2 is already being worked on / completed. But one can dream, right? But, unfortunately, that's the end of the list. What did you think of it? Do you agree that these would be some great monsters to include in the next season of Be Cool Scooby-Doo? Or do you have your own list? If so, share it down below. I'd love to see what you dream up. Thanks for watching, and take care.